Good afternoon. This is Hooting Yard on the air. My name is Frank Key, and I'm going to read to you for half an hour. I had thought of reading one or possibly two longer pieces, but I think, like last week, we'll have some variety. So I'll read various shorter pieces, beginning with a piece. Some while ago, I thought I needed to devote my life to writing pen portraits of ship's captains. So I trawled through many old sort of nautical almanacs, thinking that I'd write, dozens, hundreds of these things. And in the event, I only ever wrote one, and this is it. And it's a pen portrait of a ship's captain. Captain Flask of the HMS Corrugated Cardboard was a bad and dangerous man. He never washed his hair, and he was fond of tormenting badgers. His ship was falling apart because whenever any of his miserable crew tried to repair something, like the rigging or a forecastle, or even the whole orlop deck, he would fly into a rage like something out of the Old Testament, and the crew would be cowed and go back below decks to their scrimshaw and grog. Every day, all day, and every night, all night, Captain Flask lurched around the deck, shouting at the sky. In the pocket of his waistcoat, where his fob watch ought to have been, he kept a supply of tin baubles, and he would throw these at any birds that came within his range, particularly guillemots, which he loathed, and cormorants, which he did not understand. But his aim was not good, and he usually missed. One of his arms was withered from scrofula. His fob watch lay abandoned in the untidy drawer of his escritoire, hidden among old pencils, bits of calico, drawing pins, bottle tops, cornflakes and dust. Every morning at 6 o'clock, or whatever that is in maritime parlance, Captain Flask drank a whole pint of milk of magnesia. Oh, he was such a bad man, such a dangerous man. And so that was the only ship's captain's pen portrait I ever got round to writing, unfortunately. Last week, for any listeners who were listening last week, I kept promising a couple of news items, none of which I ever read out. The reason for that being that I discovered after the show that, in fact, I hadn't brought them with me. But you'll be pleased to know that I have them. Whether they still count as news is another matter entirely. But here they are anyway. The first one leads me to think, is nothing sacred? Has rebranding got so bad? I mean, I just heard the other day, apparently, that the seven dwarfs, Snow White's diminutive little pals, are going to be rebranded and given new names. And apparently these names should be used from next Friday. What's that? The 23rd, I think. 23rd of April, if that's the correct date on Friday. The seven dwarves after that should be known as wretched, spiteful, incontinent, wistful, lippy, rancorous, and preening. Snow White apparently continues as Snow White for some reason. But if you could start using those new names for the seven dwarves, that would be helpful. The other news item, which I'm shuffling through, I have actually marked things today, but I still seem to have difficulty finding it. Where is this second? Oh yes, the second item is about the Ayn Rand Household Pet of the Week contest, which is run by the Weekly Shackle. And it's been won this week. The top prize this week has gone to Blasphemous Ted Cargpan's dog, variously known, as some listeners will know, as Hopscotch, Spinach, Chevenix de Groot, or L'Oreal because he's worth it. He was the clear winner, the dog, in a field which included a bee, a horse, 3 corncrakes, a flea-ridden bison, Tim the pipistrelle bat, a weasel, a curlew, a pair of otters, and the bookie's favourite, a squirrel called Miriam. Unfortunately, Miriam succumbed to an attack of the bindings and had to be withdrawn from competition. So better luck next week and get well soon to Miriam the squirrel from all of us here at Resonance FM. Next up, I think you listeners should know that there's a Hooting Yard website, of course, and I'll give you the address if you'd like to take pen and paper. The address is hootingyard.users.btopenworld.com. Normally, the website is there's no www prefix for some reason. Normally, the site is updated 4, 5, 6, sometimes even 7 days a week. But there's been a slight problem at the moment. We've had major technical problems. Part of this may be that Mrs. Gubbins, who's one of the main people who runs the site, is currently on the run from the law. And I just want to read to you something that happened to Mrs. Gubbins shortly before she was arrested. She escaped from police custody, that's why she's on the run. But shortly before she was arrested, there's an account of what happened. You should understand that the website is maintained by a group of volunteers from a home for the bewildered and the fraught who come in and organise it. This is an account of something that happened to Mrs. Gubbins. Dark clouds lured and hailstones began to ping upon the pavement. Inside Hemoglobin Towers, Mrs. Gubbins and her 83-year-old colleague Daisy Diath were putting the finishing touches to their new software development, Pump Action Graphics Hub 1.0, already being touted as a harbinger by Techno Bilge magazine. "Would you care for a cup of tea, dear?" asked Daisy, noting that Mrs. Gubbins was panting asthmatically and mopping her brow with a dainty handkerchief embroidered with a pattern of crocuses, hollyhocks, mealybugs and spurge. Daisy had always been famed for her solicitude. "Ah!" gasped Mrs. Gubbins. "You're getting yourself all flustered, Mrs. Gubbins," said Daisy a little sharply. "Just because you forgot to insert a backslash into the command line for the ActiveX pod system tray default." Reminded of this peccadillo, Mrs. Gubbins became even more agitated, toppled off her ergonomic extruded plastic workstation seating module, and landed on the floor, thrashing about in an alarming fashion. "Dearie me," muttered Daisy to herself, and resolved at once to call an ambulance, despite the storm which was now raging outside like something from the imagination of the painter John Martin. She flipped through her Rolodex, looking for the telephone number of the Bodger's Spinney ambulance station, which was close by. But without her spectacles, which she had unaccountably left in the office kitchenette while making some bovril earlier, she was as good as blind. "One of these days I'll forget my own head," she chuckled in her fluting croak. Meanwhile, a stream of drool was flowing from Mrs. Gubbins' thin-lipped mouth, and her head was turning green. ... I just want to make one comment there. Pedantic listeners may argue that a croak cannot be fluting, but you haven't heard Daisy Diath speak. And by the way, you'll be pleased to know that Mrs. Gubbins did make a full recovery before an ambulance arrived, because Matilda Choctaw, who's so sprightly for a 91-year-old, skipped into the office and did mouth-to-mouth resuscitation just at the point of the ... above. So I hope that's, you'll all rest easy knowing that things are okay. Yes. People often say to me, in conversation as I wend my way through life, people often say to me, Frank, why are you so obsessed with the out-of-print pamphleteer Dobson? And it's true. I admit I'm probably quite fixated upon this legendary figure, no longer with us, of course. Those of you who listened last week will have heard certain writings of Dobson's. What you haven't heard until now is fragments from his autobiography. This was never completed and in fact never published, but Dobson did work for many years on an autobiography, and there are 4 extracts from it, which I'd like to read to you. They're not connected. We don't know what period of his life he's referring to, and of course he lived a very long and fulfilling life as an out-of-print pamphleteer. Here are the 4 extracts from... It was never titled, the autobiography, so we don't know really what to call it. Dobson, I suppose. Think of this as one of those Dobson moments. Extract number 1. My mother's brooch was blue. She took me to the lake and punched my jaw. She threw my breakfast into a pond. I banged my head against a barge the day she showed me the canal. Number 2. There were massive shutters in that room and I'd never left it. I had brilliantine in my hair. There were roses, there were lockets. I was lacking something, so unnerved. But for my hatred, she'd have seen it, even eaten it. Got it on her eyelash, crushed it, broken it, eked it out of someone's purse, or loved it, lusted after it. So, here's my signifier. You can read it. You can keep it. You're so thick you don't even know what to do with it. Well, eyebrows, hair, my pastels, then breakfast and a lover. Oh, come on, you must be guessing. Or maybe you're just so fetching. I'm done with fleshing out my lying. My hair is in a tangle and I haven't paid the rent, but I had brilliantine in my hair, and yours were better shutters. Damn it, I couldn't even see your rubbish, but I had brilliantine in my hair. Number 3. Extract from Dobson's autobiography. I'm just actually, before reading this, I'm going to have a sip of tea. Bear with me. When I stood at the edge of the lake, when I stood on the bridge, when I looked at the water, when I saw the broken fountain, when I broke my neck, when I lay awake all night, when I couldn't see a thing, when my mind began to snap, when I was spoon-fed cocoa, when what I said went askew, when they proffered me jam, when my tongue was hanging out, when I loitered in Ulm, when the diving board cracked beneath me, when I fell into a pond, when I was all washed up, when I ate too much chocolate, when nothing broke my spirit, when I hosted a TV chat show, when I went to a wedding, when I broke down in tears, when I was in despair, when bracken snagged my socks, when illness cast a shadow, when death appeared lascivious, when sadness crushed my feelings, when I was struck by lightning, when all I did was worry, when I threw in the towel, when I was scorched in deserts, when no one gave me biscuits, when all I had was breathing, when my gas bill sent me bonkers, when you told me that I'd had it, all I wanted was... And unfortunately the next word is illegible, so we don't know what it was. And the final extract from this rather puzzling autobiography, somehow it's not surprising he never finished it. When the tiny Mexican house on stilts was revealed behind such rich brocade curtains and we fell in love, Captain Snap's wooden leg was rammed between us. He was a brutish man, vengeful, hirsute and lewd, prone to piss in vinegar jars and to take our clocks to bits. I remember how he left the parts, the dial, hands, cogs and springs, littered about our flat, smeared with marmalade, peppered with talc and reeking of his dubbing. We walked on either side of him, mouthing words of ire and loathing as he limped stump, clunk, stump, clunk, stump, clunk by the wharf, jabbering and shouting. Oh, he never made any sense. Captain Snap's wooden leg was rammed between us. I took a hunting rifle and shot him through the head. Then we were together, darling, and he was good and dead. Interestingly enough, I think that last piece may be entirely fictional because, as far as we know, Dobson never had any intimate relations of any kind. At least that's what that seems to be what the great Dobson scholar Jasper Poxhaven has indicated. Pen and paper at hand, because it's time for this week's recipe. Those of you who listened last week may recognise that it seems rather similar, possibly, to last week's recipe. That's because I have a very limited culinary palette, rather than palette. But this is a great recipe for alphabet soup, which was given to me by Dr. Ruth Pastry's sister Maud. A very good soup, and I think you'll enjoy it. You can read if you haven't got pen and paper, if you can't take notes, you can always read about it on the website. And I'm sure you'll enjoy this nourishing soup. The ingredients: 1 pound each of apricots, breadcrumbs, coleslaw, dandelions, edelweiss stalks, flapjacks and goldfish brains, 6 tablespoons of honey, 2 ounces of ice, 1 pound each of jackdaw feathers, ketchup, love lies bleeding, marmalade, nugget and ox lips, 1 pea, 1 tub of quicklime, 4 ounces each of raisins, spikenard and toffee, 5 teaspoons of unspeakable goo, 1 family-sized catering pack of vinegar, 3 whelks, as much xanthium as you can stomach, 12 packets of yeast and 44 zinnias. And the method: pound everything beginning with a vowel into a mulch. Smear it onto the inside of a big bowl. Put the bowl somewhere safe and below freezing point for a week. Cut everything else up into chunks the size of a newborn baby's fist, then char grill. Go and get the bowl and toss the chunks in haphazardly. Place the bowl under an outside spigot and fill to the brim with water. Leave to stand for as long as you like, depending on how hungry you are. Transfer to a cauldron, bring to the boil and allow to simmer, pour in some milk, reboil indefatigably, ladle off the scum from the top and serve with hibiscus clumps and cocoa. And I do hope that you'll enjoy that. It's a superb soup. In fact, I had some just before arriving at the studio. Now, the next part is the beginning of an exciting serial, which in subsequent weeks I hope to continue with further episodes. This is a serial recounting the exploits of those rather excitable twins Istvan and Zoltan. And this is episode 1, which is headed Tuesday afternoon. So we're a day late, but never mind. "Crikey!" exclaimed Istvan. "What in the name of heaven is that?" His twin brother Zoltan looked up from the book he was reading. Istvan, calm down, he drawled. You know I hate to be interrupted in my reading, especially when the book in my hands is the Journals of Gerard Manley Hopkins, and I've just got to the entry for that most exciting day, the 27th of April, 1871, when the poet, quote, mesmerised a duck with chalk lines drawn from her beak, sometimes level and sometimes forwards, on a black table, unquote. How on earth can you immerse yourself in the prose of a Victorian Jesuit, screeched Istvan, when I'm about to be waylaid by a preposterously complicated mechanical contraption somehow imbued with almost human malevolence? Zoltan yawned. I've long been fascinated by Gerard Manley Hopkins, he averred. Incidentally, were you aware, O twin, that the nuns whose drowning was commemorated in that majestic poem The Wreck of the Deutschland lie buried in St. Patrick's Roman Catholic Cemetery in Leytonstone, East London, and that I have placed flowers on their grave? Peonies, I recall, or mayhap they were pinks or pansies. Eek! Yelled Istvan. Zoltan cast his eyes in the direction indicated by the frantic gesticulations his twin brother made to compliment his frightful eek. Golly! Gasped Zoltan, his eyes popping. For trundling at inhuman speeds towards Istvan was a monstrous steam-powered engine, bulky and strange, built of tungsten, titanium and tin, and seemingly alive with a perplexing array of hooters, levers, flaps, nozzles, chains, bleepers, consoles, klaxons, chocks, struts, decoy shields, Coddington lenses, batteries, prongs, bits of corrugated cardboard and Mackenzie beams. It was the indigestion machine. And the next episode of that exciting serial should be next week. Here's I found a brief quote from Virginia Woolf, which I found quite fascinating, actually. She said, I'll just find it. If you bear with me while I do my paper shuffle, and it's from I think it's from her diaries, from Virginia Woolf's diaries, and one that I don't know the date on which she wrote this, but she wrote in her diary. I think it is true that one gains a certain hold on sausage and haddock by writing them down. Now, I've tried that myself. I wrote down sausage and I wrote down haddock, and you know something? I had a certain hold on them after that. I did. So Virginia Woolf was in fact correct with that. Where are we? Time for one or two more things, and the first is I've got the beginning of, but not the second bit. So I'll just find that. Talk among yourselves while I do so. See, I've got my papers all out of order, and this is a bad thing. Ah, yes. This is an exciting little yarn called The Disgusting Bilge of Cadet Vig. Cadet Vig's bilge was disgusting. Most people remember him as the so-called tiny cadet, but I always think of his bilge. He kept it in a pail in his locker. I wrote the sign for him. It read, Cadet Vig's locker. Keep out. My disgusting bilge is in here. He wanted it printed in 24-point gill sans, condensed, but I told him to shut up and scrawled it with my nib. I'll tell you all about my nib another time, on a day when the astrological signs are favourable to my doing so. That is, toxin in the fourth house with gymnopodes rising and cack in the funnel of smew. You know that old bat-headed man with the bandaged ear? He tells me that this conjunction of the stars is unlikely to occur for the next 2 years and 10. So you'll have to be patient, just as Cadet Vig was. I made him wait 1.5 years of his sign, suffering as I was from whitlows and scrofula. But he never ever complained. I think that was admirable, particularly for a cadet renowned for his rigour. Well, I should say for his rigour and his bilge, and indeed for his tininess. Gosh, was there ever a tinier cadet? I suspect not. I had my amanuensis trawl through the records just in case a cadet tinier than Cadet Vig had trodden these blue corridors at some time in the inconceivably distant past. Perhaps during the time of the great dismal thaw. But alack, nothing was found. Now I sit slumped in my boudoir, staring at the one photograph of Cadet Vig in my possession. He has a forlorn expression in the picture and looks as if he's chewing something, or about to chew something. The air, perhaps. There is a hummingbird on his cap, but whether it's real or made of styrofoam is hard to tell. The photograph is blurred. I try so hard to pin these things down in prose. But how could I ever compete with Beer Pint's incredible poem? How does it go? The old rugged cross, the cows in the field, something, something, and Vig something. Hand me that sandpaper. Crows have landed on the roof, and I have work to do. And I think that's all from Hooting Yard for this week. We'll have some music. And we'll be with you at the same time next week. So listen in then, and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah.